everybody, we're back. It's Sophie and Marco dish out on the movies. Well, remember this is relationship month, and besides reviewing the show called The Alienist, we are also reviewing movies that have relationships. And not just love relationships, but any kind of relationships. And one we have already done is Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
That's it.
It was Abbott and Costello, that relationship. Today, we're reviewing a 1989 movie called Heathers.
Ooh.
Starring Winona Ryder as Veronica and Christian Slater as Jason. High school students at the mythological Westerberg High School. Marco pestered me for weeks to watch this movie because it is one of his favorites.
No, it is my second favorite. Excuse me.
And I had never heard of it before in my life.
Yeah, you did.
Actually, no.
Don't lie.
And when I first saw it, I knew at the outset that it was horribly dated, and not in the way most people would think when they call something, quote, dated. And I don't mean it in a bad way at all, because who would have ever thought back in 1989 that we would have had 18 school shootings in 2018 so far, and it's not even the end of February. We watched this movie several days before the latest horrific school massacre at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida.
Well, that's incorrect. I watched this month before that happened.
Well,
so
officially watching it together so I could review it as well. And for Marco and I, we just want to express our condolences to everyone everywhere who has lost a family member or friend to gun violence. And the reason why I bring up the violence in schools is because it is relevant to this movie. Okay? So on with the review. At first, I didn't know what to think, as the movie's intro song of Que Sera, Sera, Whatever Will Be, sung by Doris Day, begins playing as three young teenage girls are playing croquet. One of them is Shannon Doherty as Heather, and Lisanne Falk, and the late Kim Walker as Heather. And no, I did not make a mistake. All three of these girls call themselves Heather, an exclusive biatch clique or club who thinks they are better, smarter than everyone else, basically, and the it girls of the universe. As they continue to play croquet, the Heathers hit their balls into the head of Veronica, which is sticking out of the ground.
That's Winona Ryder.
Even Marco, who has seen this movie dozens of times, still doesn't understand how she would have voluntarily gotten herself buried up in her head.
That's incorrect. I just said I was weirded out by it because, I mean, I thought, oh, okay, is this gonna be like another Mean Girls type thing where it's or all these other high school movies where it's just, oh, I'm an outcast and I'm being bullied.
Yes, but this is the thing is,
she did it
the
herself.
The girl is buried up to her head, which is perfectly coiffed, whatever. Her hair is beautiful and her makeup's perfect and everything. She doesn't even look dirty. She's buried up to her head in dirt. And these girls are knocking, if you know what croquet balls look like, they're hard wooden balls, and they're knocking them into her head, into her face, as a matter of fact. And it's not like little barely touching her face, they're knocking them into her face. But anyway, she comes out unscathed, and seems to be friends with them, which is weird. Because she doesn't call herself Heather, and they don't consider her a Heather either. Although wanting to be independent of them, Veronica does one thing they ask, and in the school cafeteria, she slips a pretend-like love note on a heavy-set girl's food tray that seems to come from a popular boy.
What kind of note?
I said it's a like or love note.
No. It's an XXX type of note.
That's a love note.
That's not love.
Oh, Marco,
You-
please.
Are you
When-
serious?
Yes. When the heavyset girl goes over to the popular boys' table and shows them the letter, they all laugh and she is embarrassed. And the Heather girls, of course, are happy that they succeeded in tormenting and embarrassing some unsuspecting girl. Although I think in reality it would be naive of some girl to think that the note was real. Whatever the case, the bullying and mean pranking is real and unacceptable. And Veronica is not happy about it either. Meanwhile, a very good-looking boy, Jason, is sitting alone at the lunch table because he is new and Veronica talks to him. The popular boys see this and disapprove and decide to show him that they're superior and he's worthless. So they go over there and start threatening him, and wait for it, he draws out an old large handgun and shoots it. See, here's the connection to the unfortunate times we find ourselves in. He shoots the gun, like I say, I believe it has blanks, and he's just using it to scare them. But of course, like any normal high school person and administration person would think, he's immediately suspended. And his action does the trick. It scares the bejesus out of those boys, though, and they don't bother him again. But wait, why would they even see him again? Because if somebody shot a gun off in school, would they be able to come back there in today's world? No, not in your life. No, because after a brief suspension, he does get to come back. And everybody seems to forget, except maybe those boys that he shot the gun at them.
They deserve it.
And that's why this is dated. That would never happen in today's world. So we go on with the story, which will probably throw anyone for a loop. And I mean that it will totally surprise people, and it especially me, when it turned out to be about suicide and murder and bombs. Like suicide vest kind of bombs. Anyway, I'll let Marco tell what happens next.
Well, I'm not going to give away.
Well, you can give one away, okay? Why does it talk about suicide? When I say suicide, what do I mean by that? I guess I'll have to say, and then maybe...
No,
okay.
You're not going to spoil the whole movie just
No,
so you
just one.
spoil everything else. Okay.
Well, why would I even bring up suicide? Because the whole rest of the movie is about it. Okay? So, Marco, why don't you say what happens next? Why would I talk about that?
Okay, so the most popular one.
Popular one of what?
The popular,
Girl.
The popular one.
Heather.
The big one. The blonde one.
Which one is that? Which girl?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's the blonde one, the main one. She is a biatch to Veronica, and so of course she tells JD, and then they both go over to her house.
She tells Jason. That's
It's
JD.
JD.
And they call
it's
him
not
JD.
Jason.
Well, they call him JD.
And they go over to her house. What happens? They want to play a prank on her and give her a fake hangover concoction, and so she mixes a concoction of milk and orange juice.
Who does? Veronica.
And then JD says, how about we use a drain cleaner instead? And then not knowing which cup is which, she accidentally gets the wrong cup and takes it in there, and JD doesn't say anything for some reason. And then, what happens? She drinks the drain cleaner, and she dies.
And I didn't think she died. I thought
Because
she was really ill.
Sophie thought this would be some
High school movie, which it is, but
puffy little high school movie like Breakfast Club or
I've never seen
Mean
Breakfast
Girls
Club.
or
Just Mean Girls.
all those other high school movies where we're outcasts and nobody likes us and we sit around all day and cry.
Well, I thought it could be a horror movie because everything about it so far has been, if you flipped it over, it's almost like a Stephen King horror story. And
and then because Veronica is so good at copying handwriting, she writes a suicide note for the Heather who just died. And so then they think that she killed herself, everybody.
And they don't even question it, although she had no
Why would you?
Because she had no inclination.
That doesn't matter. And
Well,
so after that, it actually has a reverse effect where it makes her even more popular than she already was. And it makes her get all this attention and fame and popularity, and the story continues on after that. I'm not going to spoil any more until spoiler section. And now we're going to talk about how we felt about it. Now, first off, before Sophie goes on an unnecessary and unfair, biased, emotionally driven tirade about why this intelligently and perfect movie is so offensive to her, I'm gonna talk about how good this movie is. So number one, most of this movie feels like a dream. A lot of it you're not sure what's real and what's not because the events are so shocking and because you wouldn't expect any of this stuff to happen in a high school movie. Number two, Christian Slater gives a really, really good performance, and his character really draws you in as somebody who seems to be making a good point about everything that he's doing. And then at the end, it actually comes to a really good conclusion. Everything has a solution and an ending point, and it all feels really complete, satisfying. It also shows how all the other kids that are even not like the Heathers are stupid too. And so all these people that we always see high school movies about, like Mean Girls, those people are stupid too. And why are we empathizing with these drones who just, they think the world revolves around them? And this girl, she just thinks that you should be nice to everybody and try to get through high school. And it's as simple as that. And these other people are just as bad as the Heathers. And also, this movie has a good soundtrack, although whenever I watch the movie, because I've already watched it like 20 times.
I told you dozens of times.
Whenever you watch it, the opening song, it's kind of irritating. It's like, I want to get through this already. I want to watch the movie. And so I found myself fast forwarding through this opening credits. And also, it kept getting worse and worse. And that is called plot progression. And a lot of the movies that you see nowadays, it just seems like everything is happening to the character, and the character doesn't do anything themselves. And in this movie, the characters are the ones that are affecting the world around them, and not the other way around. So I like that too. Now, I'm really trying to resist. I mean, she's gonna try to smear this movie. She's gonna try to say that I have a crush on Winona Ryder because she's already said
No,
that.
I'm not gonna do that.
Trying to ruin my reputation as a movie goer. Trying to say that I'm biased, and she's
No,
gonna
not
say
gonna
this
do that.
this movie's horrible and nobody likes it. Go ahead, Safi.
Okay, well, this movie is considered to be a very dark satire. That's what it says on the internet, and I guess that's just putting it mildly. And Marco claims, too, that they have done a remake of this movie and made all the Heathers gay. And just the fact that they remade the movie at all blows my mind, because the suicides, and I say suicides, are really murders, and how everyone is so duped in believing that perfectly happy kids would take their own lives and not even be suspicious at all at any of them. But that's a satire, right? And the final outcome to the movie is just so not to be believed. Not at all. And the way the school handles the gun at school incident at the beginning, and the suicides, the following suicides, makes me wonder if the school administration was all high. None of it would fly in today's world. Winona Ryder and Christian Slater gave great performances. In fact, Marco says that this is Winona's favorite movie, and that's saying a lot for an actress despite her little hiccup with shoplifting, but that she has done quite a few movies. So for this to be her favorite, that's saying a lot. Another weird thing that is a small detail but falls into that not to be believed category is that at one point in the movie, like near the end, Veronica burns herself with a cigarette, and Jason immediately lights his cigarette by sticking it into her burn. Weird stuff.
No.
So for all its craziness, I give it a spicy chicken and bean enchilada rating that I like, but can hardly eat because it's so spicy.
She is doing that because she thinks that by burning her arm,
I know, it's to relieve some kind of tension.
No. Excuse me. She's doing that because she thinks that that's gonna make a difference in what she just did.
Well, that is a common thing for people who are depressed. That is a thing that's known. People will hurt themselves. They cut themselves, or they might burn themselves, or do something to injure themselves. It's a kind of a common thing. There's a little book that came out when I was in high school called Lisa Bright and Dark, and it's about this girl who cuts herself all the time. And that's what it reminded me of, but it was bizarre because her, quote, boyfriend, and I think he was supposed to be her boyfriend, partner in crime, he immediately gets a cigarette and sticks it under her burned arm and lights it.
Let me explain, because you obviously have no idea what's going on here. Okay, so you have Winona Ryder, and
Yeah, Winona Ryder, or Winona Ryder has us.
Stop! Okay, so she... Ew, what was that? She likes pain a lot. That's why she's in it. Because that's why she hasn't went to the cops.
Hasn't gone to the cops.
Stop! and why she hasn't tried to stop him in any way, shape, or form. Because she likes seeing these other kids get hurt secretly. And he even calls her out on that. He says that her desires are too icky for her to think about. So she's trying to cover it up.
Hmm.
And I agree with that. And he's exactly right. And he puts the cigarette into her arm because he just doesn't give a
Crap.
a, he just doesn't give a freak, and and she's so you have this. I wouldn't say it's a partnership. It's I would think like a mutual relationship because he likes inflicting pain upon people, and she likes watching people have pain inflicted on them. So that's what the relationship is.
It's a causal relationship then.
I don't know what
One person does one thing, causing the other person,
It's like-
I don't know, to do something else.
Okay,
Cause and effect.
whatever puts you.
I don't know. Whatever.
Okay, so
So do you want to spoil what
no,
spoiler?
we're not there yet.
Well, we
So,
gotta get there.
another
We
fun-
get it correct.
No. Another funny thing is that one of the lines in this movie is really funny. The blonde girl, she asks Shannon Doherty, "Did you have a brain tumor for breakfast or something?" And so, what's really funny and ironic is that a couple of years later, the blonde girl died from a brain tumor.
In real life, and I don't think her family was laughing about it much. And poor Shannon Doherty has breast cancer and has been doing a really good job trying to fight it off.
Yeah. And so also
Hopefully she'll be okay.
the guy in this movie who kind of looks like Tim Robbins, the one that he's talking to the class and he's like, "I used to think that I was boring, but now I know that it was just Heather who was sad, and she was like taking it out on me." And he actually shot himself in the early 2000s. So a lot of suicides surrounding this movie.
Well, it's almost like it's hexed then.
Isn't that cool? This
No.
movie's so special and everything. And so also, what was I going to say next? Oh yeah, the TV show. Now here's the thing. It's an agenda type thing. Remember, we talked about agendas. They're horrible things to have in movies and TV shows. Except for when it's like a reality show and it's like, oh, we're going to do something for a charity. That's an agenda, but that's not a bad agenda because they're not trying to disguise it with story. And they're not trying... It's basically... I would compare agendas to like a pedophile feeding candy to his victims. And that's what it's like. And... so,
Oh,
this
brother.
TV show, it replaces all the Heathers, which are girls, with lesbians and one gay guy. Of course, they're labeled, I guess, as queer, which is the same thing, so I don't know. But they said, oh, that makes a difference. I don't think it does. And anyway, they're not supposed to be like that at all. That's not their character. And apparently, the reason is because the TV showrunner, he says, or she, I don't know what they are, they, because I'm not sure since they wrote these characters. They said that when they watched Heathers, the original movie, they thought that the Heathers, the popular girls, were the heroes, and that they were the victims of everything. And, oh, God. Ugh. What a misrepresentation of what the heroes and the victims were. I mean, these popular girls, they're like
Well, they torment, and just like I talked about the incident with the girl
in the note.
She actually, and I'll just give this away because nothing
No,
happened.
spoiler alert.
Okay, this is like a spoiler alert, just but the heavyset girl. I'm sorry, I don't know what her name is in the movie. I don't even remember them saying the name because it didn't pop up until like about the very end. But she, like I said, they have a lot more suicides. I won't say anything about who they are, but anyway, they're not suicides; they're murders. But anyway, the thing is, if you have people committing suicides for real in a clump like that, where several people have done it, people who were just thinking about it, they decide, oh, I think I'll do it too because I'm a worthless person. I don't want to be around anymore. I mean, this is a proven fact. So the heavyset girl actually does try to commit suicide, but she's not successful, which is a good thing.
She didn't do that because she thought it would be a cool thing
no,
to do.
No, not at all.
She did it because
she was unhappy. She
No,
thought she was
stop.
worthless.
No, that's not the reason why at
Why
all.
then? Why?
She did that because she thought that maybe it would make her more popular and that maybe more people would pay attention to her and talk about the things that they liked about her.
Oh, well, that is probable.
No, that's the main reason.
Well, that's a possibility, yeah.
And so
I don't know in a high school if that would be, but that is a possibility. And and another thing too, when somebody wants to commit suicide and they try it, they usually want to be saved. That's been known to do. I know this stuff because I worked at a mental health office at the University of Illinois, and we had a few suicides, and so it was talked about, certain aspects of it.
So what else do you have to say about this movie?
I don't have anything else to say.
Oh wait, before we get into spoiler alert, I'll give my food.
Okay.
If you guys didn't hear, she gave it a bean,
I gave it a chicken and bean enchilada that's very spicy, almost too spicy to eat, but I like it anyway.
I thought you were gonna give it a garbage can with ice cream.
No, I appreciate the performances, and the movie really, if you want me to say something, it surprised me the whole way. It's almost like a horror movie. In fact, I thought that's why you liked it, and that's what it was, because that scene at the very beginning where they're hitting croquet balls with this head sticking out of the ground, it reminds me of that movie, which I talked to you about earlier, Motel Hell, where they're making sausage or something out of people, and they have them like buried in the back, but their heads are sticking out of the ground, and so that's what this was. That's really dark, and they show this at night, but this was in the day. It was full daylight, and it was a pretty manicured yard with flowers, and they had the croquet set, and the girls are dressed up really nicely, and their hair looks beautiful. And then you show them, they're playing, you think, oh, they're playing croquet, oh boy.
Another thing that you guys should notice is that they all stepped in synchronization. They didn't, one of them wouldn't dare to step differently than the other.
The Heathers.
Yeah. And that was
And that reminds me of A Wrinkle in Time, in a certain scene of it, where everybody walks in complete synchronization, or they bounce a ball in synchronization.
So I wanted to give my food. So my food for this movie, since it's my second favorite movie of all time, I would give it homemade spaghetti still with meatballs and a little too much a little more garlic than usual to make it spicier, and Mr. Pibb. And if you guys don't remember, Fright Night is homemade spaghetti, but with Italian sausage, Mr. Pibb, and garlic bread on the side. And so that's what I think about this movie. It's still spaghetti though, which is also the main character's favorite food, and that's not the reason why this movie is my second favorite movie. Just like to clear that rumor out. And so now we're in spoiler territory.
Hmm.
And so one of my favorite things about this movie is how they think that just because the guys have mineral water that people are gonna think they're gay, and then the cops come over and they're like, "Oh, they're gay," and he's holding up a bottle of mineral water, and it's because this is a little county or a little place in Ohio, Sherwood, and there I guess it's really like this where if you don't drink beer, then you're gay. You might as well have on a dress.
Or sink water, I guess.
And that's
Because the high school students would not be drinking beer.
oh Therese, come on. Really? Really? You don't think
Legally, they would not be drinking beer.
yeah, but
That's what I mean by
I
that.
mean nobody really cares about that in
Oh
high
my
school.
God, you gotta be joking.
I know all about it.
Yeah, so
And
do
so it's maybe the squares. And so anyways, another thing what else do you want to talk about? Spoiler
Well, there's a
alert.
huge ending, and it's very, actually, it's very,
Poetic.
well, that you're talking about the very, very end. I'm talking about the lead up to the end is very, what was it?
Okay, let's turn off that
It's
phone.
like a, what would you call a thriller, or where you're like action-packed thriller, and it's almost like you're kind of scared to watch because of what could happen, but because it's, I mean, the way they did it, it's really, you don't want to look away, or you want to know what's going to happen. And then I think I suspected what he was talking about, the poetic justice, very last thing at the end, and
I had no idea.
suspected it, but and that's why it's another thing. It's so dated because, my God, of what's happened over and over and over again in the
Okay.
Middle East, and I don't even want to say anything about.
Okay, so
here, but
let's get
anyway.
off of politics.
Well, no, it's just something that's happened, and that's what's so funny about this movie. It's almost like a predictor of the future, in a certain way, in certain events. But anyway, it is really good if you look at the end, and I mean, it just keeps going and moving. The story evolves and has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So
Wow,
that's
impressive.
it's good.
It's good.
So I mean, it'll leave you on the edge of your seat near the end to see what happens, because they really build it up really well. So
Another thing is the mystery of the anti-hero JD, because nobody really knows his personality, because I mean his personality is to hurt people, but nobody really knows his true personality, because he's covered up in this costume that he's wearing to try to look to try to tell everybody that he's a revolutionary figure. And so you don't really know his personality. You know his backstory. He saw his mother kill herself.
yeah, but that's not even. That is not totally evident at the beginning. That's kind of dribbled out. It's not. He keeps his background. It's like you get something thrown at you. It's not a big thing, but a little thing. It's just like somebody's thrown a snowball at you.
Well, it's exactly how a high schooler would talk. How he gives little hints.
Yeah, it's real, but it's not all together. It's like one part of the story he says something, and then a whole bunch goes on, and then another part comes out like snowball and hits you, and then stuff goes on, and then another snowball, and then boy at the end a big snowball.
And so he saw his mother kill herself, and at
But
first
not the way you think.
he was just like, the last time I saw my mother, she was waving at me from a window in Texas.
And so you say, then when you hear that, you think, well, his mother ran out on the family, or his parents got separated and divorced, and he went with his father. That's what I thought, because that's what it sounded like.
And then
Kinda
you
perfectly
find out
innocent.
later that his dad's a terrorist.
Well, not like you think.
Oh.
He's like, well, it's more like a mafia kind of.
You mean putting demolition bombs in people's buildings that are competition to his company and then blowing them up? That's called. Okay, turn off your phone. That's called terrorism, right there. And so it turned out that the building. Okay, now that I can talk now, the building is actually a building that the father put explosives in. And so she did that deliberately because she was sick of him and she knew that he was a terrorist. So,
Well, I think there's a name for what he does, but he's almost like a contract killer. But it's not. There's another name for what he does, but it's kind of goes along those lines. So
he owns the company, so he's terrorizing people, causing controlled acts of terror. And, and so you can see how all this affects him.
yes, and that's a shame because he he really is crying for help, and during the movie, but you can't.
And
he
even
seems confident,
and
you know.
and it's
you
really
think
funny because even she doesn't care at first because all she cares about is seeing him inflict pain on people because something happens that she doesn't like. Okay, I'm gonna go tell JD. What do you think is gonna happen after what just happened? I mean, Jesus. I mean, she's pretty naive, but she's not. She wants it to happen, and in the end, she just is nice to people, and that's what she does. She asks the overweight girl after she survived trying to kill herself to go watch movies and eat popcorn instead of going to prom, and that was very nice, and that's how it ends. What else would you like to say?
nothing else.
Would you like to talk about how
No,
you misinterpret this movie and
no, I didn't misinterpret the movie.
it's secretly genius? How everybody should watch this movie or else they're crazy.
I don't know if you know, the thing with all the school shootings, this gun incident at the beginning, there's no other gun incidents, okay? So, but it is involves in the entire school at the end, and has to do with dynamite. So it still goes along the lines with violence in the schools. I don't know if anybody has the appetite, even though this is satire. It's not meant to be happy-go-lucky or realistic, what'd you call it, real true story. This is a satire, okay? And maybe people don't have the appetite for that now, but if you have, after a while, if you can, watch the movie and you'll probably like it.
Ugh. So also, I just want to say, it's actually pretty funny. I was on YouTube, and I saw this video, and it was the stars of the horrible new political remake of Heathers, and they were saying, "Oh, hey guys, before you watch the video you're gonna watch, you should go to the Heathers website and check out the pilot of the season for free. We decided to be really nice and release the first episode for free on our website that you can watch right now." And so they're so desperate because if you don't know on their trailer, it got like over 30,000 dislikes and only like 1,000 likes, and that shows nobody wants this political agenda crap except for these people over there, and so they're so desperate for attention and for verification from people who like agendas that they're willing to put up the first episode for free. I found that really funny. What about you?
I don't. I just surprised that they could even make something like that now in this day and age.
I mean, don't you think that was a desperate move to get verification?
I guess I just. I don't. I'm just still surprised that they could make that they even would think about, and also that they changed the characters to being all gay. I don't understand the significance of that. No offense to anybody, I just don't understand the significance and how that relates to the old movie.
It doesn't.
I know
It's.
that's what I don't get.
I would. I mean. I'm glad that Winona Ryder doesn't even have a cameo in it, or Christian Slater. They both stayed away from this horrible TV show. And if you guys want, you can vote down in the comment section. If I get 20 votes from people, I will watch the Heathers premiere episode and I'll make a full video destroying it all by myself. And
that's not right. See, he's saying that he right now he knows he's not going to like it.
Damn
I don't
right.
think that's right.
Damn right.
Even though it sounds weird, but
I knew I wasn't gonna like Spider-Man: Homecoming, and I watched it anyway, giving it the benefit of the doubt. Eating chicken pot pie, I was like, let's have a fun time, and I got a political agenda, John Hughes blatant ripoff mixed with preschool Peter, Iron Man. So if you guys want me to destroy something worse than Spider-Man: Homecoming or White Famous, then you give me 20 votes in the comments section, and I'll destroy it. So now we have to go do the trash and get pizza. So goodbye, everybody. Hope
bye,
you
everybody.
go watch Heathers and don't watch the TV show.
Don't forget to listen to our review of the next Alienist episode coming out next Monday, and also the next relationship movie that we're going to be reviewing is Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah.
So see you soon, everybody. Bye.
Yeah. Don't watch that new show.